Welcome back to episode 2 of Royale Roundtable. This is a weekly discussion panel where myself and Naders have gone around and grabbed some of the greatest minds in the community to talk about topics, meta, balance changes, all sorts of stuff. So strap in for 30 plus minutes of discussion about Clash Royale. This week, your hosts, of course, Rumham and Naders, and our two special guests, Hazard in the far corner and ManuFan to my right.
What's going on, guys?
For our first segment, we're going to talk about the metagame as it's been for the last week. Now, we are joined by two great tournament players, but all of us, we have to get our cards off the ladder too. So, Hazard, what cards have you been seeing a lot of on the ladder since returning back from Toronto?
On the ladder, which it's nice that there's been a lot less Royal Giants since the latest nerf. But I've been seeing a lot of Giants, a lot of the usual meta decks. People have just sort of copied them from tournaments and are bringing them into ladder a lot of the time.
Is there any deck archetypes or specific cards that seem to be maybe overperforming? What do you think, ManuFan?
For me, I'm running mostly into either Giant decks or the occasional Siege decks that are starting to actually, as I'm moving higher up, I'm starting to see some more Mortar decks. And I mean, I've seen a lot more people utilizing Mortar ever since it got that sort of buff a while ago, but I don't really have a problem against it, and I feel like it's kind of still a little bit hard to use. I don't really think there's anything that's too overbalanced anymore. The Royal Giant, like Hazard said, was the only thing that was really too high because of the fact that it was a common, so everyone was over leveling it.
Sure.
And once it got to 12 and 13, it was kind of too much. But after it got scaled back a little bit, I think the only problem I have is just playing against Giant all the time. It starts to get really repetitive.
I can see that. I really like Siege right now in the metagame because people are spending a lot of elixir behind their King Tower, right? They're putting down collectors very often, sometimes 2 at a time, or things like Giants, Lava Hounds back there. And when somebody spends 7 elixir on the back row, it's easy to put a mortar right at the river, and they don't have the elixir to really fight your mortar. So I like situations like that. Personally, I've seen a ton of Three Musketeers. I feel like Three Musketeers was an archetype that almost didn't exist as recently as a month ago, 6 weeks ago. How long ago was Three Musketeers not a deck? And now it's all over the place.
It's so much fun to play them. That's what I've been using on the ladder recently. I just find a lot of fun in it. And it's the fact that once you get into double elixir, it starts to get a little overwhelming for the opponent if you're playing the Three Musketeers right, because every time you split them on the King Tower, it kind of makes them have to focus on 2 paths and also have to focus on which side they'll push and which side they have to defend. And it always, sometimes they mess up and they overcompensate on the side with the 2 Musketeers and just forget the 1. And over time, that damage just accumulates on the towers.
Yeah, 1 Musketeer it takes a tower from 2,500 to 1,600. So it does a third of its health if you don't deal with it at all. And that's pretty significant.
I think it's the double overtime thing. It's just the accumulation of that value that you get from playing Three Musketeers. It's the cost of 2 1/4 Musketeers, and you get 3. So when you have enough elixir to kind of constantly pump them out every 20-30 seconds, it gets to the point where they get overwhelmed by that value that you're generating from playing Three Musketeers.
Yeah, it seems key to the deck to me is the skeletons and ice spirits and zaps, the other cheap cards in it, because it allows you to split your musketeers and then spend 7 elixir to get back to your 3 musketeers, and you can almost have another split ready to go as your musketeers are crossing the river. So as they're ready for it.
It turns it basically into sort of a sort of cycle 3 Musketeers deck, and it doesn't really give you any time for offense if you're playing someone who's really utilizing it to its full potential, because really all you're able to do is just basically play. You have to just keep playing the defenses, because if you go for a push and overcompensate, then all of a sudden 3 Musketeers are down on the other side, and they can all of a sudden make up a huge push.
They're so good as a two-way card, drop them in the middle, protect against both sides, and then you've got a ready-made push with whatever else you play. I really like my favorite little trick with that deck is somebody mentioned Ice Spirits. Especially on the side with the 2 Musketeers.
Yep.
If you drop an Ice Spirit and they're planning on dropping, Mini P.E.K.K.A. or something to deal with your 2 Musketeers, the Ice Spirit slows it down just long enough for those 2 Musketeers to just wipe it out usually.
What beats 3 Musketeers?
Definitely decks that have spells in them, and not just if the deck that has
Zap. Yeah,
Zap doesn't do anything, but as you saw in the Toronto tournament, for example, I mean, that's kind of a rare case. You're not going to see somebody playing like Fireball and Poison really in the same deck. But if somebody's got like, first of all, like, if somebody's got like Arrow, I think Arrows are going to make a comeback first of all, in this new meta. But also like if Arrow Fireball or Arrow Poison, something that they don't have to keep wasting the Fireball on something else, and they can save it for your Three Musketeers, you're never really going to be able to use them.
And that's why so many Three Musketeer decks run like Collector, Barbarians, and some of those just like other Princess, like just Fireball targets, like things that you need to Fireball, because if you're saving it for Three Musketeers, then you're letting yourself get beat up by all these other high priority cards.
That's what that double minion Three Musketeers deck does, for example.
Yeah.
What's that deck?
It's just like it's the 3 Elixir minions, the Minion Horde, the 3 Musketeers, then it's got the Pump, then the Knight. Or I've seen people also put the Mini Peck instead of the Knight, but the Knight's
kind of... What is the goal? Is the goal basically like you have to Fireball Minion Horde or you lose?
Or they start getting overwhelmed because there's either they have the 2 sets of minions and the 3 Musketeers, and all of those are spell targets. So eventually sometimes they'll just waste the spell on the Minion Horde or the minions, and it gives you free reign to use your 3 Musketeers, you know? And it's also got a miner in it.
What about the P.E.K.K.A. Three Musketeers deck? I see that once in a blue moon, and I just lose to it, like all the time. Like, I can't ever beat this deck.
I do too, and I don't get it, because it feels like it shouldn't work. It feels like I don't know how to play against it, you know?
It might not work, Naders, and we might be scrubs. I'm not sure.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised.
I lose to that deck a lot. When I play, say, Giant Bowler, if they play P.E.K.K.A. Three Musketeers, like, if they play it well and then they, like, separate all their stuff with their Barbarians, I'll lose maybe, like, 8 times out of 10. It's, like, I don't know how it works, but it does. I can never play it. I always lose.
I can't do anything with P.E.K.K.A. With Big P.E.K.K.A., I just can't ever make it work. And it's one of Runman's favorite cards, right?
I love Big Mama. Yeah, it's fun. Here's the best thing is you play it on an iPad or a computer, anything where it's like big and you can look at it. She like sachets. Right. She has like this like hip swing, and she's like, I'm gonna come over to your tower and push it over, and I'm just like, oh, you're so fun. Go kill giants. Okay, well that's a good transition, by the way. So P.E.K.K.A. is a pretty underused card, and I think there's a lot of really like interesting, fun decks with that. Have you guys been using any like homebrews, any interesting decks that you guys have been working on? I know Naders is always working on something weird.
Yep, I've always got a couple giant skeleton decks in the works. I was kind of sad to see that didn't get any love from Supercell this time.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
I think everybody was. There was a little bit of a disappointment on Reddit.
Yeah, because that's one of those cards that I think it's cool. Like, it's got a good mechanic, right? But it's possible that they have been leery to buff it because it maybe looking at their stats, it's not an overpowered card. Like, it has a decent enough win rate. I don't know how, but like, you know, whatever. It's also one of those cards that is incredible on defense. It's so much of a better defensive card than offensive card that if it was really good, you kind of get into the same situation we already have with Inferno Tower and other things. You're just like, I can't get through. Like, I can't attack this deck ever because Giant Skeleton is too good on defense, and then if they made it better on offense...
It needs more damage, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think one-hitting goblins would hurt anything. Even if it attacked a little slower, the fact that it has to take 2 whole swings to kill, like, the world's crappiest units is underwhelming, I think.
Yeah, like one-hitting guards, one-hitting goblins would make such a huge difference for the giant skeleton on defense and on counter pushing a little bit. But like, I don't think it would be OP at all. So I'm surprised Supercell didn't change it.
I don't think so either. And my issue was I really expected that Giant would get a little bit of a nerf like it did. We'll get to that in a minute. But I expected that they would also at the same time try to promote some of the other tanks that aren't very often used in the meta.
Yeah, Golem is another one that like they tried to buff it, didn't really do much. So actually, that's a great question. How do you think these upcoming balance changes are going to affect the metagame? I think we all are kind of in agreement that like, well, Giant's still the best tank, and there's nothing really that's making the other tanks become appealing. So maybe that's in the new cards or something that will help that. But what do you think? Just looking at the balance changes is going to change in the meta?
I definitely think Lightning could be really good partnered with something like the Giant or the Lava Hound because their big counter is Inferno. And the lightning, it'll do a ton of damage to the Inferno, and it'll reset it, so it allows your giant to really go in, or your lava hound to really go in. And who knows, it might even kill like a mini P.E.K.K.A musketeer as well. So I think it'll be really good in the meta.
Oh, lightning for sure, and definitely. I think we're moving towards. I think we're sort of. Right now we're in a spot where it's like everyone builds up for their push, with like the prominence of like elixir collectors, and like you said, I think that's a perfect time for siege decks to really take place, especially with the log buff. I know a lot of siege decks have log in them.
I'm so looking forward to that log buff.
Now that it pushes back like everything.
Sure. Now what can you give me more feedback? Because the only use case that I see for log knocking everything back is it gives log more utility against prince decks. But other than that, I don't really see what, like, why would I want to knock back a giant? Because normally I want to separate the giant from its back line. So Hazard, what's the, why are you really excited about log after this change?
Well, I already #love the log. It's a lot of fun, and
It's a free country.
It's
Love whatever you
really
want.
good against like guards partnered with a mini P.E.K.K.A. I love log hog decks, but I just think that extra momentum. A lot of the times with these cheap hog cycle decks, when something on like your mini P.E.K.K.A or a giant gets on your tower, and all you have like is a cannon to stop it, I think the log, it could be good for like separating the aggro and just like giving a lot of the time an extra second with hog mini P.E.K.K.A decks, stuff like that is huge.
Yeah,
so
because
that
the mini P.E.K.K.A gets
that
like
extra second.
one swing off ever. Like ever in human history,
Yeah.
does mini P.E.K.K.A get like one swing. So yeah, pushing it back even a tile or two could be enough to...
Yeah, it could be enough to maybe kill a giant or something.
If you're still seeing any Royal Giants, it's going to retarget, I believe, with
a good
knockback.
I really am excited about the lightning change for the same reasons you guys are, right? Like Inferno Tower. But I also think it's going to be... It gives players another tool to fight Sparky decks. So Sparky is one of those cards that is really contentious in the player base. A lot of people have strong opinions on Sparky. And even if really high-level tournament players know how to counter that card and don't think it's that much of a problem, I think that's one of the big speed bumps in players going from like, I'm new to the game to I'm a really good competitive player. Sparky's one of those cards that you're just like, I'm losing, I can't beat this thing. And so I think the ability to hit like Giant, Sparky, and the wizard behind it and kill all of it, and the dog agrees, and you lightning all three of them, and it mostly kills the Sparky and gives you a window to attack it before it fires again, I think that will be very welcome from players who've been struggling against Sparky.
I think you touched on this a little bit either last week or when we were talking before that, but I think it has a lot to do, it's similar to the bowler, it has a lot to do with they're tanky enough that you can't deal with it on their side of the field normally.
Yeah.
So it's scary enough that if it crosses the river and you don't have something to deal with it right away, you're in big trouble. So I think inexperienced players seeing Sparky for the first time, it's a card that really punishes not having the right play for it, mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. If you get caught out of cycle, like your Zaps card or something, like you can just get 3 crowned by Sparky like in a minute.
Yeah.
Bunch
One
of
card,
times.
or one old deck that I used to see a lot of back. So back, I don't know how when you guys started playing, but back in the very early stages of the game, especially in beta, all of the defensive towers were insane. Were like just all of them over the top. And Inferno Tower.
Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla wasn't crazy. Inferno Tower used to have a
Tesla-
60-second
Tesla-
lifespan.
It lasted for a minute.
And well, so did Inferno Tower in beta. Before global launch, Inferno Tower had a 1-minute lifespan. So you couldn't, nobody could attack with anything. Nothing was getting through towers.
It was all
everybody
expos
set up
everywhere.
towers.
Yeah. So there were decks that would actually play Hog Rider behind their King Tower and just like let it gain their elixir back, and then when it crossed the river, you'd lightning everything. I kind of see there's like Hog Rocket decks that are going around. I think like Hammer Esports was playing Hog Rocket at a SuperMagicalCup. I could see that same deck subbing out Rocket for Lightning, and it's a little worse against Elixir Collector, but far better against those like Inferno, Ice Wizard control decks that never ever attack. You just have your Hog come in and they're like, like Inferno Tower, Ice Wizard, and you just ace their entire defense.
Yeah, I remember when Boss Hog was like at the top of the leaderboard before tournaments came out, when Cannon was like super popular, everyone was playing Cannon, Boss Hog would run this Hog Lightning deck, and he would always lightning the Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Hog just went straight for the tower, and he did tons of damage.
Yeah, lightning was actually really popular back when everybody was running hogs. I remember like another popular deck was the Hog, Arrow, Zap, minion horde, princess bait deck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, ManuFan, what's your prediction for the meta over the next few weeks? Like, so we talked about how like Lightning's going to be cool. What deck will you be playing come September 19th when the patch hits?
To be honest, I'm actually like I don't even know how I'd play it, but Mirror, the changes to that card, we didn't even talk about that yet.
That's a
But
good
that's
point.
it's crazy, especially in tournaments where everything's on the same playing field. Now this Mirror update is going to basically make the card you mirror a level higher. So I don't know how that could how you could actually think about a specific card that it would benefit more than others, but it kind of opens up possibilities to new sort of combos. Maybe like the I'm not even sure what kind of mirror, like what kind of use you'd put it in, but maybe
I've thought about this a lot.
Mirror cycle,
Yeah.
mirror cycle.
Here's okay. So my prediction. So okay, I actually think the community reaction's been a little over the top. Some people are like, "Oh my god, OP card auto included every deck," but like, there's a lot of decks that you don't want to put mirror in. But I do think that there will be like new mirror decks that just happen to play like 6 or 8 cards that all benefit from level advantages at tournament play. Or just cards like, so you could run like, for example, Barbarians. The level doesn't really help, but if you fireball the Barbarians and I can drop another squad of Barbarians, you're in trouble, right? Fireball is one that I think benefits really well because you can fireball a collector and then they drop 3 musketeers, then you level 8 fireball all of their musketeers
And
and
it kills
That
them
would be
with it.
interesting.
to wipes them out, right? And you're kind of like setting them up for that because if they've never seen Mirror, if they haven't seen Mirror yet in that game, they don't know that you have a second fireball, right? Musketeer is another good one because when Musketeer is over level, he one hits minions. She pops minions in one shot.
No, that's gonna be interesting. I didn't even
Yeah.
think about
Yeah,
that.
it's really
Yeah, there's
cool.
some cards that all of a sudden will start one-shotting others.
Yeah.
All three of the cheap legendaries, you would pay 4 elixir for them in the right situation, right? Like you would easily minor twice back to back if you could. Double Ice Wizard is good. Princess in each lane is interesting. Like you could actually play a collector and then go, Zap, Ice Spirit, Princess, Mirror Princess, and you've only spent 10 elixir between your elixir collectors, and you have 2 princesses to show for it, which is there's
Yeah,
some
lot.
ideas. Yeah.
My first thought about the mirror change is some kind of deck that just takes advantage of cheap stuff because you've still got the +1 elixir penalty for playing mirror in the first place, but you get a lot of cheap cards that just get a lot of value, like you said, Princess, Ice Wizard, Miner, etc. Even things like Knight. Knight's a really underrated card. Great on defense, pretty good as a tank on offense. Get a whole deck of cheap, really efficient cards like that together, and I think it's a great deck waiting to happen.
I think an overleveled Mini P.E.K.K.A. one hits Musketeers too. And I think
Yeah,
I'm
it
thinking,
does.
Yes.
what is Mini P.E.K.K.A. almost kill but not kill? There's a lot of the barbs. I think maybe an overleveled Mini
Yeah,
P.E.K.K.A.
Bards,
barbs.
Yeah.
Mini P.E.K.K.A.
Miner, maybe?
Not Miner.
Not Miner?
Wizard. Wizard it does. And I think a few others.
It's close. So there's definitely some neat stuff. I actually think it's maybe not the cheap cards, because if a card costs 1 and you mirror it, and now it costs 2, I mean that's
It
a
costs
100%
double,
increase.
yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think goblins can go from like 2 to 3 all right because the overleveled goblins don't die to zap. So like that's kind of relevant. But I don't think you'd want to mirror like spear goblins, archers, a lot of other sort of fragile troops. I think the best value is when you get something like a 5-cost card because you're getting 20% more effectiveness for 20% more elixir cost, where it's actually closer. And you really get value if you can somehow mirror a 6 or 7-cost card, because then I think you're getting more of a buff than you are an elixir cost increase. But then again, when are you going to cast Giant and then mirror it right after?
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I agree in theory, but then I'm like, what practically could you actually play 2 of that cost 6, like 2 Sparkies?
Yeah, exactly.
It's more for the smaller things that get like the significant but small jumps. Like if you're going from certain levels, something either that would get 2-shot becomes 3-shot, and that's like the value for it.
Yeah.
It's for like the smaller things.
I can't remember if over-leveled minions will take 1 extra shot. I think at tournament cap they take 3 hits, and at over-leveled they still take 3 hits, but if they were under-leveled. Yeah,
If they're
okay.
under-leveled, they take 2. That's it.
Okay.
But what I'm really excited for is the Goblin Barrel. Like, say, if you mirror Goblin Barrel, Zap won't kill it. So say they play a Musketeer on the first Goblin Barrel, and then you Goblin Barrel Miner, and then they zap, and the Zap won't kill it. So
That's a
that
good
could
point.
do a lot of
Oh
damage.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Turd League data of Reddit Alpha finished second at the SuperMagicalCup this past week with a mirror rocket deck and he was mirroring Bowlers, Ice Wizards, and Rocket. But other than Ice Wizard, and I guess maybe Bowler, but I don't think Bowler's level matters that much, so it's kind of like it's the same
not
right
really.
there. That deck.
Knockback.
Yeah, exactly. The knockback's what you can. I actually play a level 4 bowler at like 4,400 trophies, and he's fine. Like just because nothing touches him, so it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter with the bowler. It's more the knockback.
It's stupid. But yeah. So I think that deck theoretically would benefit from a rocket or a mirror buff because it's already a good deck that runs mirror. But actually, I think the most advantageous decks will be the ones that can use it for a lot of beatdown plans, like to get around the control decks. Those decks that are like, okay, we run just one copy of guards because they have one copy of Mini P.E.K.K.A. and your ability to play a second Mini P.E.K.K.A. is probably more valuable to those decks than the control decks getting to like mirror a slightly tougher Ice Wizard. Okay, so actually, this is the first season that we've had only a 4,000 trophy reset instead of a 3,000 trophy reset. Has this affected you guys on the ladder navigators? I know you're kind of floating like right near that. Have you noticed, like how did you feel about the reset this season?
Well, I completely forgot. And actually, I was thinking that it reset back down to 4,000 and 3,000, so I found out like after the fact, like, oh, I'm still at 38 or 3,900. That's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't noticed too much. I'm still kind of facing the same people because they're either floating around 4,100, 3,900. They're going back and forth. It's not any harder or easier, you know.
I think it's kind of cool because I mean, that it was kind of tedious, you know, how everyone was getting set back to 3,000. Now we're at a point where people are at or breaking 5,000 cups. So it's like that first 1,000 trophies, for example, it really means nothing. So it's like you're going through playing all these people who are just under-leveled compared to you. It's not really fair to you. It kind of wastes your time yourself. You're not getting anything out of it because really when you're playing like those games, at least for me, I like to actually play against people at or like above my level because it actually like my goal is to like improve. So if you're playing a bunch of people that are just level like 3 to 4 levels lower than you, you're not getting anything from it. All you're doing is just wasting your time.
It doesn't serve anybody. You feel bad for beating on people that are 2 levels below you, and if they're 2 levels above you, then you're like, well, I have very little chance to win here, you know.
Yeah. With no doubt, it has reinvigorated my interest in the ladder because I used to end every season at about 4,300, but the problem for me is that I would get reset and I had to spend literally a week. It's like 50 some odd games, even if you win every single one, to get back up to 4,000 trophies. So it was just like unfun for me. It wasn't very good. But now I'm like almost close to my personal best again, and I'll probably get to push a new one because starting at 4,000 makes it a lot easier. Does the 4,000 reset make you guys want to go to 4,000? Like there was always a clear goal to get to 3,000, but now is there an interest in you guys to get to 4,000 and get legend trophies? What about you, Hazard?
Yeah, for me definitely. Before the last season end, like with like 2 hours, 3 hours left in the season, I was at like 3,650 trophies. But I was like, you know what? I have a goal. I've never passed 3,900, but I want to get to 4,000. I want to be at the reset. So I pushed for like an hour, and I got there. I lost like 2 games. I got really lucky. But it's definitely like piqued my interest in ladder. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like I always have a challenge. The only downside with it is at the beginning of the season, I don't get those easy crown chests, but like
I don't get to play my level 1 lumberjack on the ladder ever, but it's fine.
So I saw a tweet a couple days ago from somebody, and it's like I got 350 trophies in an hour and like an 11-game win streak or something. I'm like, oh, Hazard, teach me everything that you know about Clash Royale.
Let me just goob out of your brain all those info.
Immediately copy the deck and teach me your ways, senpai.
All right, final question lightning round for the laddering and overperforming. If you were starting a free-to-play account today, what card would you try, what troop, because we've already said Zap's pretty popular, what troop would you try to over-level in order to go up in trophies really quickly? For me, I have a free-to-play account that I just recently got the Legendary, and the whole time I'm playing it, I spent my time leveling up Musketeer and Mini P.E.K.K.A, and if I could go back and redo it all over again, it would probably be Valkyrie. I feel like Valkyrie is one of those cards that just like can especially in the early arenas, there's so many options for a Valkyrie to get more than its elixir cost, and if you could like over level it in some way, I think it would be really strong as both a tank and a defender. Naders, what do you think?
I have a mini right now and play Valkyrie in my deck because I'm playing a sorta trifecta deck. and I notice a lot when I run up against a Valkyrie that's 1 or 2 or God forbid 3 levels higher than me. It just wrecks everything.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you're gonna win that fight with even if you got a mini P.E.K.K.A. or something trying to back you up. It's really gnarly. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah.
I think another strategy also is to take another approach and just focus on your commons, because if you actually do the math, you'll find out that you can actually level up your commons much faster than you can your rares. So especially at the lower levels too, if you can request like, I think it's like 4 times. I haven't even calculated this.
I know what you're saying. It's like 2 to 3 times. If you're just requesting commons, they level up at a much faster rate.
It's 10 times more commons than like the rares you're getting. So if you like goblins, minions, barbarians, those are all important commons to get leveled up, because you'll be using them for a while.
Sure.
Ice Spirit, it doesn't really matter too much. It's a really good card, but it doesn't really matter about the level too much, because you're really just using it for the effect. Fire Spirits are another solid common.
Okay. Hazard, what do you think? What troop would you recommend to a new player over leveling?
I haven't really thought of this, but Rumham, I definitely have to agree with the Valkyrie, because the Valkyrie also, it's kind of a card, like, I would normally say mini P.E.K.K.A., but mini P.E.K.K.A., if you play it wrong, like, you're done.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's a good one.
But with the Valkyrie, it's, like, very versatile with the splash damage, but it has a lot of health, so especially if you're starting out a new game, it can be really good at those lower levels.
Yeah, I regretted not leveling my giant up earlier. I spent time on the mini P.E.K.K.A. because I needed mini P.E.K.K.A. to stop enemy giants. But if I went back and started over, if I just started with like some Fatto level giant, he may have been able to carry under-leveled musketeers to a victory, because you just can't kill him fast enough.
I think Giant's a good choice. I'd also throw Hog in there, because there were times in the recent meta where Giant wasn't like overwhelming. Hog has pretty much been around and as one of the most popular decks for as long as I can remember. So that's one of the cards that I know I request a lot of on my mini account.
Sure.
I think it's for Hog though. It's not that much. It's not. Well, this is the view I have. As long as Bowler's strong, the Hog's not that strong, because if you're playing a Hog deck versus a Bowler deck, it's really hard, you'll find, to get the Hog to the tower, especially if the Bowler deck also has a defense tower like an Inferno, which you'll see in tourneys. There's a quite large amount of Bowler Inferno decks, for example. So they have the Inferno as a counter, or even just sending a Bowler down keeps pushing back the Hog. You can only get in like 1 hit if there's no other troops hitting on it too, you know?
Totally.
So a lot of it depends on kind of what level, what arena you're at, because I know on my mini I don't see any Bowlers, probably because people are just unlocking it, you know?
Yeah.
Bowler doesn't exist on the ladder, even at like higher arenas too. Like, so I have like 4,400.
Yeah.
I never see Bowler, because you could have spent thousands of dollars on the game prior to Bowler coming out, and then you just don't have a level 7 or 8 Bowler now. Yeah.
But that's what the ladder is also something you have to think about. The ladder, main difference between like ladder and tourney is you have the element of surprise on your side. You have no idea what they're playing. They have no idea what you're playing. So you can use that as sort of like, okay, if maybe you have a specific win condition in your deck, like 3 Musketeers, if there's any like possibility, you can sort of use that to your advantage and maybe wait until you can lower out the poison, wait till you can lower out the fireball, and then take that opportunity to, oh hey, by the way, here's my 3 Musketeers.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And for our final segment of the Royale Roundtable Episode 2, last week we had Clyde and Woody being a caster and Clyde being a participant in the Northern Arena Toronto tournament. That was the largest prize pool for a North American live tournament to date. Well, now this week we have 2 top 8ers in it. ManuFan and Hazard made it there through, I believe, very different paths. ManuFan, you played through the live qualifier, and Hazard, you won an online qualifier that got you a trip there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was correct.
Awesome. So what was it like, going to Toronto? How far of a trip was it for both of you? And sort of like tell us some stories from that trip. I'm sure Naders and I were really jealous that we couldn't make it.
Well, for me, I live in New Jersey, so it's not actually that far. Like, you think about, oh, I'm traveling all the way to Canada. No, it's not. It's really like 8 hours. So it's like, we left at nighttime. We got there in the early morning. It's pretty much just like a straight line right to Toronto. Got right through.
It was 8 hours with Raintown, right? Like you road tripped with another top player. What was that like? I mean, I remember were you like talking Clash Royale the whole time, or how'd that go?
We actually traveled like on the way to Toronto at night. So it was like by the time we left my house it was like 11. So to be honest, I fell asleep around 12. So there wasn't really much talking going on.
He was talking the whole time. He was giving you a live stream, and you just passed out. Hazard, what about you? Now where are you from originally, and was it a long trip to get to Toronto?
I'm from Rhode Island. That's where I am right now. It wasn't too bad. It was like 6 hours. We had a connection flight on the way there, but the travel wasn't too bad at all.
Cool. What was it like winning the live qualifier? Like you were like at home, right, in Rhode Island, and you're playing, and you finished at the top. I mean, it was already if I remember, like 1,000-player tournament. So you're probably jacked about winning like 1,000,000 cards, and then on top of that, you got this trip. Tell us about that.
It was a 600-person tournament, but I was actually up in Maine where I had like really bad Wi-Fi. So I told my mom, "Hey mom, I got in this qualifier, and if I win it, I can go to Canada." She's like, "Oh, all right."
Okay, your mom's never believe you.
Typical parent.
They never believe. They don't want to get your hopes up. Yeah.
And then halfway through, I started like lagging out, and I lost like 3 games in a row. But like in the last 10 minutes, I was in like 15th place, and I just got really lucky with my pairings. I beat like the number 1 and number 2 guy, so I got all the way up to the top. But my dad wasn't at the house at the time. He was back in Rhode Island, so I called him up. I'm like, "Dad, I'm going to Canada, and you gotta come with me, and we gotta figure out the flights and stuff." He's like, wait, what? Why?" But he plays Clash Royale as well, so I'm like, "Yeah, I won a tournament, so we're going to Canada." So there we go.
I heard your dad was pretty enthusiastic.
Yeah, he was very enthusiastic, very supportive. We had a great weekend. We got there on Friday. We spent Saturday exploring the expo, exploring Toronto. My brother was also there, so it was a really good experience.
It sounds like your dad earned the steak. So the story is that you took your dad out to a steak dinner afterwards with the winnings.
I did, yep, and the steak is coming right out of my bank account. But I think it was worth it.
Yeah, for sure. So ManuFan, you went up. When Hazard went up, his spot in the top 8, I believe, was locked already. So you had to actually fight your way through a live qualifier to get there. What was that like?
That was actually more intense than I thought it would be, because like when you're playing like that live in that live setting, first of all, we were sitting in like in the esports bar in like this the back part of it, and there was like these all the like the tables set out with like the chairs, and you see everybody sitting around this room, and there's people standing around playing the game, and every single person in that pool is next to you or across from you or somewhere over there. So you feel like a lot of pressure in your games, because for example, like I paired with like Trainer Garrett like 2 or 3 times, and he was sitting like 2 seats down from me. So every time I pair him, I'd hear like I'd be like, "Oh shit," and then I'd see him go like. So it's like,
yeah, like the tension is just electric.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah,
like,
you could literally feel the tension.
Yeah, if you think bad man, I mean, not that people are like rude in person, but you can feel that BM, because when you beat someone, you can kind of look over and see them go like.
But it was actually really cool too, because it was like when you're playing in person, you really have to use the like there was a lot of strategy involved too. Like with that 2-hour tourney, there was a lot of stakes. Getting to the live qualifiers was something everybody there wanted to do, and the fact that only the top 6 made it, there was a lot of pressure. So pretty much like everybody you could see was kind of nervous once they were, especially in the last half hour too. People were like trying to stop playing, and then someone would play, and the spots would all get messed up again. So everybody would be like, "Oh crap, I have to play another game." So every single game at that point you play, you're like crossing your fingers that you don't get like a really bad match, or you get a good starting hand, because anything can really happen,
I remember. So yeah, did you what was it like to meet all the other players in person? Right? 'Cause a lot of us know each other, from line chats or Discord groups or whatever. What was it like to actually be in the same room with a lot of the players for the first time?
To be honest, I thought that was the best part. Like, being able to actually, the first time especially you walked into like the hotel and you saw them for the first time, and you actually meet them in person, it was like, whoa, like this is taking it beyond the game,
Yeah, that's awesome. That was actually when I was in Helsinki, it was weird to see like Molt and Galadin and Nick and Knight and all these guys like in a row eating dinner. Right? This is like not where you normally see these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was the same kind of like experience. It was so great to meet all these people. Like they were so nice, just like beyond all of my expectations. Like Raintown, there's an example. They weren't in the second game of the final. I was playing with CC, but they didn't know I was playing. So like they weren't actually showing it on screen. So Raintown, who was in the clan, gave his phone to my dad and my brother so they could watch it. Like, people were just so nice there, and it was a great experience. It was really cool. I was actually like, I was at the live qualifier,
Yeah,
but
he was
I didn't
walking
have to
around
play,
the
so
room.
I wasn't like stressed out. But I could like walk around and see the games. And it was a lot of fun. You could really feel the tension, feel that like excitement that was the live qualifier, and it was a lot of fun, even just watching.
Were Woody and BBX8, were they like in the same room as you as well?
Yeah, they were just over in like a quarter, and they had their whole like production set up. So they were sort of just using like a booth, pretty
That's
much.
gotta be a little intimidating as well.
Yeah,
Not only
you
just
could hear them. You could hear and there was the projector screen up on the wall, so you could like
yeah.
see. Sometimes your game would get cast, so you would see yourself playing up there, and you'd hear the commentary going. You're just like trying to shut it out because
Yeah.
you don't want to focus on it.
And there are TVs like throughout the whole sports bar just broadcasting.
Oh yeah,
it.
broadcasting all the games.
It was almost impossible not to see the game if you were like being broadcasted. You just have to like look down at your device and be like, "What? Nothing's happening. It's just a normal game."
Yeah, you almost want the like sound canceling headphones or something.
No,
Yeah.
Definitely next time if I do something like this, I'm bringing my Beats with me. I need the over-the-top headphones, just block out the world around me.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation, I think, where you're playing in a big tournament that's getting streamed or something, and all of a sudden you notice that you have like 7 or 17 spectators, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm the guy on stream, aren't I?
Yeah.
That's the downside of being a streamer, is that anytime I play in like any other streamer's tournaments, I'm like, let's go check out how Rumham is losing with this furnace deck. And it's always so bad. Because I like these tournaments to try new decks, and it's just, it's ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Nick at Night's tournament during tournament week, and I was like I was number 1 for like the first hour and a half, and it was like being broadcasted by Supercell. It was the tournament week thing, right? And it was Nick at Night. So like each game, I had like 500 viewers, and I was just trying to like, stay focused and just. It was a blast. I mean, I ended up like going on tilt really badly at the end, but it was really cool.
Yeah, they definitely if you haven't ever played in a tournament match with a lot of spectators, it's so cool. Like there's really nothing like it in the even just in the app, right? Where you have like 50 spectators, people are just throwing confetti the whole time on both sides.
Sheets of confetti.
Yeah.
That's fun. I'm glad that was one of those very minor features that game developers put in that like nobody could justify it on money reasons. Like this doesn't make any money to put it in there, but I'm really glad they did because it's a lot of fun and enjoyable.
It really feels like an arena, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quality of life changes like that
Yeah,
just make the game like slightly more fun and more friendly and whatever. I think those are really cool. They need more of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Come on, Supercell.
Yeah, that would be cool. So if you went to another live event, what lessons would you take from Toronto? Because even though both of you way outperformed everyone else, fell just a little short in the end. So what sort of changes would you try to do to improve on your performance the next event?
Definitely come prepared. I didn't have really that much time to actually set a good amount of decks. So if my best advice would be to make sure you have at least 3. Better to be more like around like 5. But don't make the mistake of switch, especially in like if it's a similar format where it's like a pool. Don't switch between them a lot. I used only 1 deck in that pool play because I find if I for example lose and then I switch a deck, I find that hurts me more because I haven't gotten warmed up with that deck yet, and I'm going in cold, and all of a sudden I'm just gonna.
It's easy to forget matchups, right? Like you had Giant Bowler, and now you have Giant Prince or something, and then you're playing as if you have a bowler in your deck, but you don't anymore.
Yeah, become familiar with all of them beforehand, but have a plan of which one you'll use here, which one you'll use here. But then when it comes to the live event, it becomes a lot more like strategy too, because it was in the best of 3. So you have to sort of think about like when you'll play a certain deck, and then if you win, what you're gonna do. If do you want to switch or do you want to keep playing? So have that like game plan made up already.
Hazard, what about you? Next live event?
I kind of have a different approach. I had a lot of practice with the 3 decks I brought. I think I played actually 4 decks throughout the tournament. And like if I lost with a deck, except for in the finals, I would change deck and I would try to find a counter deck, which I did like against Nate. He was playing a very slow hog deck. I mean a very slow giant deck with both minions and barbs. So I did like a hog poison princess deck, and it just absolutely dominated him. But what happened in the finals is I lost the first game due to bad cycle, and I won the second game. And then in the third game, I
No,
knew it was
yeah.
gonna come down to cycle, but I was just too stubborn to switch. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have bowler. But bowler ended up being my 8th card, and I lost to tower in like the first like 30 seconds. So
No, he was
just
playing that
really,
tough deck too. The
yeah,
punting,
just
punishing.
I feel like don't be scared to change things up. You might not have practice with something, but still just go for it. Just like have fun and
And
see what
matchups
it
can
is.
go a long way. Like I agree that I kind of agree with both of you, right? That if you're not warmed up, you'll make a lot of fatal errors. But if you have something like the next deck they're going to play is trifecta, well, you want to play your bowler deck kind of regardless of whether or not you're warmed up with bowler
Definitely.
because the matchup is so in your favor that you could afford to make a mistake or two and still get through. Actually, Hazard, I think you're playing in your first Super Magical Cup tomorrow, and I think this, if you have time, and this would probably be a really relevant piece of advice because the nature of it is both players register 2 decks, and you sort of have to try to line up your 2 decks against your opponents too.
Yeah. You have to really pick decks that are very versatile. Like if you see someone's deck and you're like, oh, this is a counter, or like this is a very popular, this is very counter deck to a very popular deck. Like those are the kind of decks you want to bring.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of mind games, I think, in the top 8, especially between repeat performers. Like some of the same players make the top 8 regularly, and they sort of know, all right, Patriots 34, who won last week, he always plays this Expo Lightning deck. So do I want to lead off with a deck that I think is better against Expo Lightning, even if it's not my preferred first deck and that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And that does it for episode 2 of Royale Roundtable. You can follow me on Twitter at the RumhamCR. Follow the co-host Naders at Nader$. Special thanks to our guests Hazard and ManuFan for joining us. Hazard, you got anything to plug?
Huge shout out to my clan Silent. I've been with them since March. They're awesome. They're super friendly, super active, and also follow them on Twitter at silent_cr and follow me on Twitter hazard__cr.
Double underscore people.
Sorry,
Don't forget
mess
it.
up. Yeah. ManuFan,
Everyone.
got anyone to
shout-
hype out?
Okay, shout out to Super Magicals, the clan Rumham's pioneering actually. For top tourney players, stop by if you want.
Yeah, please stop by and do some practice games. We have
And
guests
also
all the time.
at ManuFan05 on Twitter.
Quick question: why don't you capitalize the U? Because at first we were wondering if it was when we first met ManuFan, we were wondering is it Manu like Manu Ginobili of the Spurs, but it turns out it's Manchester United.
You
Yeah.
fan.
So where's the U? We need the capital U.
I messed up on that. I still have the name change if I want to do it. So.
All right. Well, consider it wisely. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure to follow Super Magical Cup on Twitch every Saturday at noon Pacific. It is the best, most competitive tournament in the Clash Royale community. And subscribe here on YouTube and check out not only the other Royale Roundtable episodes, History of the Meta, SMC TV, and all the great series we have here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone.